Hello everyone. Today I would like to talk to you about the negative psychological effects of New Age spirituality. Now, it differs from contemporary spirituality in many ways. I've seen contemporary spirituality to be a very positive element in a person's life, good driving force or motivator in someone's life, and I know many spiritual people that are wonderful people. However, New Age spirituality is a separate entity all its own, and it's becoming one of the most popular religions in the United States right now. It's spreading at an alarming rate. Now let's get something straight. Spirituality is religion. Okay, no matter how much you deny that it is still a religion, because there is a belief in a higher power of some form, and is a belief of some form of afterlife, whether it's reincarnation or heaven, hell, whatever it is. That's an afterlife. So New Age spirituality has the central themes of unconditional love, a oneness where everything is, all of us are all connected and we're one being, and that you should always be positive at all times, never feel negative emotions. These are some of the central themes, the main central themes. Now let's look at unconditional love. Is there anything more conditional than love? I think not. Okay, let's take an example here. Your child just did something bad. You've told your child not to do many times. So at that moment, you're angry at your child, or you're disappointed, or you're frustrated. You're not feeling love, because you see love as an emotion like hate or anger. These are emotions, okay? That's all they are. And at that moment, you don't love your child. The bond is still there. You still care about your child. If somebody came and hurt your child right away, you're going to do something about it. But you don't love that child at that moment. So as you see, love is conditional. Now, this whole oneness thing is based on quantum mechanics, whereas it's been discovered that there's energy that connects all living things and all objects, okay, in our universe. However, the physicists themselves will tell you they're not entirely sure how this plays out. So it's a fairly new discovery, and you should never get out of control with get out of hand with a new scientific discovery. Wait and see what happens. They need to study more. They need to experiment more. Now, New Agers who despise science, despise it like nothing else, even probably more than the Christians do even. They dare to cite an experiment, which, by the way, was conducted by the U.S. Army, of all people, and has never been replicated in any other lab to verify that the experiment, was indeed a success in multiple labs. This is part of the scientific process, then it has to be peer-reviewed. It hasn't happened. So the New Agers go all crazy. They see this experiment, thanks to Greg Braden and his book, The Divine Matrix, which I read a couple years ago. And, he was speaking science, and it got to me. It really worked on me for a bit, because I'm more of a scientific thinker. And I thought, he's right. And for about 2 weeks, I was a New Ager. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit it, but I'm a truthful guy. I did it. I'll fess up to it. And in that time, it didn't take me long to see that it was bullshit. And you can look back on your life and think of the times you went into situations with great positivity and negative outcomes happened. So how can the New Age version of the law of attraction even work? Which, by the way, they stole that term from the scientific term, the physics term, but law. Physics called the law of attraction, which is simply the energy is neither created nor destroyed, it merely changes form. So they've made it into their religious core. So, we do know that is a fact. It's how can you debate it? But they go on to take it much further without any evidence or logic behind it and say that we are all one being. And therefore, if you love yourself unconditionally, you must love the rest of the world. We're all connected. So somebody that murders your child, you must love them by the New Age standard. And I've put that question up to many New Agers on Facebook, and almost all of them have said, I would love that person because that person is me, and I can't hate myself. No, that's pretty disgusting, and I don't think those people should be raising children. Do you? Now let's look at this idea of unconditional love. Okay, New Agers have a history of taking scientific terms and words that have specific meanings and twisting and perverting them to their own use. Okay. Now, what they call unconditional love is empathy in reality. Okay, it's empathy, where you feel for somebody else. Somebody's hurting and you feel their pain. I've experienced it my whole life. I'm very empathically sensitive. It's hard for me to be around violent or negative people. It sickens me. And they're talking about empathy, and they don't even know it. Then they focus so much on the ego. They're obsessed with the ego, which is a psychological term, and even though they hate psychology, they're going to use the terms and pervert them instead of creating their own damn words. So this ego, now, ego protects you from, it's a defense mechanism. Now, that's the superego, I'm sorry. The ego itself is your personality. So essentially, when the New Agers are saying kill your ego, they're saying kill your personality. Don't be you. Yet these same people bother to, speak as if they're individuals. No, you can't have it both ways. I'm sorry. It's one or the other. You're either individual or you're not. If you kill your personality, you're no longer an individual. Now, the reason I think they obsess and fear the ego so much is because it is an unconscious part of their mind telling them that they're feeling the effects of their defense mechanisms, such as, a traumatic event happens, and you'll have anyone. There's several defense mechanisms. There's projection, there's denial, there's avoidance. These are the three top ones that I usually see. And these exist as everything in your body exists for a reason. The purpose is when a traumatic event happens, your psyche is very weak. And to prevent you from going fucking apeshit crazy, these defense mechanisms kick in, and they help you in the short term get past the traumatic event until you're strong enough to face it and then heal from it properly. Okay? Now, if you look at, and I've studied New Agers for years, didn't really want to, but I didn't have much of a choice. They're in my face all the time. I've dated several. I've known several, and Facebook is full of them. And, many people suspect that Facebook is a government project. Pretty good possibility there. So it wouldn't surprise me that New Age spirituality, which was probably created by our government, would be something that's promoted continuously, non-stop, all over Facebook. Alright, now let's look at what New Age spirituality does to people. The end result is it makes them into wonderful consumers for the corporations. Because if you, if you don't, let's just put it this way. Alright, there's this meme going around called, where people say you have to love yourself. Now, okay, I've had many times in my life, and I've even recently, where I was very stable in who I am, very comfortable, and I'm getting back there now. I just went recently through a traumatic experience, and I'm healing. But when you're good with yourself, when you're okay with yourself, you don't love yourself, and you don't hate yourself. You just are yourself. The thought doesn't cross your mind, does it? Those of you that are happy people, do you think, I love myself? No, you probably wouldn't think that if it wasn't all over TV and all over Facebook, being programmed into you. A narcissist loves themselves. They want you to be an emotionless sociopath. Because one of the main things that the New Agers fear is romantic love between a couple. They call it attachment, and attachment is wrong. Now, let me explain something to you. Those of you that haven't studied much of human history, or even looked into anthropology to any degree, you won't realize something that almost all anthropologists will tell you is correct, which is two of the main reasons we still survive as a species is because of strong family unit, strong community. Now, those things don't exist without this so-called attachment. What is a family unit? How is a family unit going to stay together in a harsh reality without a strong bond of love, where you will walk through hell, run through hell and back for that person that you love, be it your wife, be it your husband, whatever. That's what keeps the family unit alive. The never quit mentality, never quit on that person unless they've just went too far and you can't be with them and still keep your self-respect. You know, humans should have their self-respect, their dignity. But you should try every damn thing you can, work your ass off when you're in that kind of a relationship to keep it alive. And that's a very strong, one of the most strongest survival tools that humanity's ever had. The New Agers don't want you to have this. Okay? Many of these New Agers, by the way, are in polyamorous relationships, which is really convenient for them. You know, they had a marriage, they had kids, they no longer are attracted or love each other anymore, but they have a house together and they've got these kids, but they still want to have sex with people. So they have their polyamorous relationship, a matter of convenience. Some of them are just flat out, I'll just be honest, just sluts. Now, I'm not going to judge somebody on what they do with their genitals. It's their life. It's their genitals. But I really find it really silly when they try to make it out like it's a spiritual thing. It's just an animal lust thing. Let's be honest here. Okay. Now, this connection thing, this we are all one thing, in their belief, somebody can't do something bad to you because it's like doing something to themselves. Okay? And I've actually argued with people on Facebook before where I was drawing to their attention how the Israelis are shelling innocent people, or the United States militaries going over murdering Iraqis, innocent Iraqis and Afghanistanis. And these New Agers dare to call me negative for reporting on an observation of a negative reality. And I say to them, look what these people are doing. They say, oh no, you know, you have to love those murderers because they're you, and you have to love yourself. Okay. No, I'm here to tell you you don't. Okay? We are a special, rare species on this planet because we're diverse. We can choose our role in the ecosystem. We can be positive, negative, or neutral. A negative human being very much resembles a virus, a viral creature. And that negativity spreads as a learned behavior from one to the next, like a contagion, like a virus. The positive people, like those that, you know, grow organic foods and use permaculture and feed the ecosystem what it needs and keep it healthy. These are the antibodies. And then there's those of us in between that try not to harm the ecosystem, but we're not doing things to be considered an antibody. We're neutral, right? So what we have here, what I think we have here, is a government project to destabilize families so that the government and the corporations can move in and replace the man in the family unit. Because we're so replaceable, right? You know, I mean, we are. That's the new mindset today. A very popular mindset is, I don't need a man. How many women do you hear say, I don't need no man to make me happy? Or I don't need a man to do this or that. I hear it all the time. All the time. And that doesn't make you strong by saying that phrase. It makes you weak in so many ways, because for one, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to others. Men and women need each other. Couples need each other. You know, there was a study recently that showed that a single person with the average job pay, you know, in the United States, cannot survive on their own in a healthy way. They don't eat enough, all these different things. We still need each other as a species, okay? People got through the Great Depression because of this so-called attachment. These strong families and strong communities. People were together. We don't have that now that we're in the Greater Depression. Very few families are together anymore, are they? And then we're teaching the next generation that they don't need a strong family. We're providing the example for these kids that are growing up to be adults later on. They don't need to be a family unit. Besides, keeping a family together takes work, doesn't it? A relationship, keeping it going, oh no, it takes work. We can't have that in the United States. Okay, we cannot have that. Everything needs to be prepackaged and convenient. And we're lazy. Americans, very lazy in a lot of ways. Some of us are very hard workers. Some of us, we bust our ass at our jobs, but then we go home. Do we work hard on our relationships? Do we work hard at being good parents? Nah, a lot of us don't. So, right now we're in what I call the Byzantine era of the United States. We played Rome for a while. Okay? And just as Rome collapsed because of greed and because of all of these things that we have now, you know, Rome collapsed and the Byzantine Empire rose from those ashes trying to reassemble Rome. It was like Rome 2.0. Okay? It failed miserably. And because Rome, all these lands were just too destabilized. That's where we're at right now. Okay, snap the fuck out of it and realize where we are right now. It's not working. What we're doing, almost everything we're doing, is not working. Especially when it comes to relationships and family. So, yeah, some of you are probably thinking, oh, look at this long hair guy here, you know, he just wants to do drugs and fuck a bunch of women and stuff. Well, let me tell you something, I'm a logical person. I do follow my intuition. I am intuitive, but I'm a very logical person. And there's nothing that I've found that can give somebody better morals, that teach people better morals, than being logical, okay? It was logic initially, long before any religions existed, that created morals. It was survival. You didn't fuck somebody else's wife or husband in your tribe because you needed all those people to survive. And if you did that, you were kicked out of the tribe. And life on your own, out in the wilderness, almost impossible. Almost impossible. And now today, we have a different kind of wilderness. You know, we've got asphalt and cities and steel, but it's still a wilderness, even with all the people around. And in a lot of ways, it's a more harsh environment than what humanity has faced before in this exponential growth period. So, what we have here is New Age spirituality is breaking up the family unit, is pushing negative psychological disorders onto people, and enabling such things. Projection, denial, and avoidance particularly. You know, they avoid anything that they label to be negative. If you're winning an argument against them, you're negative. So they will avoid you. They'll say, oh, you need to go meditate. You're negative. If you put figures before them that they cannot deny logically, then they go into denial. And they say, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. They can't give you a reason why because they haven't studied what you're talking about, arguing about, but they'll deny it. And then projection. They do bad things to people. And they push it off on the other person. You know, like, let's say you're stringing somebody along who is in love with you, and your rationality for not wrong. But you're hurting this person that you got into a relationship with. Okay? You're hurting that person. That's negative. But when that person reacts in a psychologically healthy way to the stimuli that's presented to them, then you're projecting onto them that they are the one being negative. This is how people do it in their everyday lives. This is what they're using New Age spirituality for, this little corporate tool. And boy, does it make great consumers, doesn't it? Sells antidepressants when the family unit's broken up. It's amazing. I shudder to think of the monster that New Age spirituality is growing into and will become in the next several years. This attack on the ego, which is really nothing more than your personality. Do you really want to be an emotionless Borg from Star Trek? With no individuality whatsoever, that is unable to love somebody properly, the way a human being experiences love? Let me tell you something. Positivity is a great thing, and I consider myself a positive person, and I know lots of people that know me in real life that would say the same. Okay? But I'm not going to lie to them. Just to be positive. It's our actions that are positive or negative. Words can be forgotten, and they're just concepts. But when you do something to somebody, it has a positive or negative or neutral outcome. Okay? So, honestly, I could go on about a great many things. There is one study I do want to talk about where it was a Harvard study where they hooked electrodes up to people's brains while they performed different religious and spiritual and creative activities. They hooked them, they hooked these electrodes up to people that were praying, people that were meditating. They even went so far as to hook them up to people that were speaking in tongues, or the Baptists that get all excited and pass out at church, and even people at concerts, like the teenage girls that Justin Bieber comes up and signs something and they pass out from excitement, from bliss. And then they also hooked electrodes up to artists that were creating art of various mediums. And what they found was the God center or bliss center of the brain, also known as the pineal gland, however the hell you say it, was stimulated far more by creative activities than by religious or spiritual activities, such as praying or meditating. That is the part of the brain that makes us feel this oneness with things, this connection to people and things around us, living things, whatever. Okay? So, it's being creative that I think is the true spirituality. So in this case, I consider myself spiritual by that definition. Maybe this is why I draw so many spiritual people to me in real life. I think I'm spiritual. Maybe it's because I'm creative. I don't know. And that's probably why religions oppress artists and have for a long time. Okay, that's the true spirituality. To create is to be spiritual, I suppose. Don't have any evidence to back that, but some things that really point the way. Carl Gustav Jung spoke of, a collective consciousness, he called it, where we all connect to this consciousness, and all of our memories and concepts and ideas, they're all there, and we can connect to it. And sort of like maybe some sort of psychological, telepathic internet, so to speak. I think he was onto something there. There's no evidence. It's hard to set up an experiment for such a thing, right? But I think he was really onto something, and I also suspect that artists have a direct conduit to the collective consciousness if it exists. These are just some things running through my head. Now, I could go on for all day about the things I've learned about New Age spirituality. Well, every time I go to end this, I think of something else. If you study them, the New Agers, you notice their demographic. Now, they think the universe is here to provide for them.